access their back catalog. And now, what is it, 4 years that you guys have done the record of the month?
Yeah, I mean, technically, we've been around a little over 5 years. Some of those archives from the way back, they
Okay.
weren't really special edition. They were just stuff that we were sourcing with label partnerships.
We've been around
So
a little
there's not a
over
lot
5
from
years. Some of those
2013, but there's
archives
some
from the
late
way
2014
back,
stuff,
they weren't
2015,
really
2016.
special
There's
edition. They
some
were just stuff
absolutely
that we were
great stuff,
sourcing
and
with
label
label
really fun to get to
partnerships.
kind of
So
like
there's not a
dig
lot
back through that
from
catalog.
2013.
Absolutely.
Some really good records.
Well, dude, listen, you know, it's pretty fun. The minute it is that we're able to open a show and like Black Sabbath Paranoid is showing up in the background, it's something, you know. And what's fun about this episode for me, you know, it's pretty fun that it allows us, rather than just kind of talk about what's new, it allows us to kind of go back, okay, and follow the last 4 or 5 years of Vinyl Me Please, and which records stuck with us, which records were the best ones, rather than just talk about the ones that didn't stick. But there's a bunch of them where it's kind of like, oh, you know what, that was there for whatever reason. And for you guys, for all of you non-members, another big thing is not just the fact that you can get these records. If you look on Discogs, some of them are, you know what, stupidly priced right now.
Today's what, the 22nd of August? 23rd?
Wednesday.
We're running this through August 31st.
Okay, so for the rest of the month.
Rest of the month.
And if I'm...
then those doors close, and that stuff, you know, will be, again, available to members only. So trying to kind of open the
so
vault,
for the rest of the
invite some
month.
people in. I feel like I know a lot of collectors, like friends in my own life that, you know, maybe they're just not into the idea of being part of a subscription. Trying to kind of choose their own
so for the
records,
rest of the
but
month.
they're always asking me,
And if I'm...
can I get a copy of this or a copy of that? We take a lot of pride in the pressures as well. I think this is the best for all these records.
Oh, yeah.
And I get them at some of the
so much to talk about, Hessler. What it is that we'll do is we'll use the $100 cart to go backwards and pick our favorite records from the archive. So much to talk about, because what it is that we'll do is membership is $29 a month, and I think that you offer very, very strong value for that $29. But you know what? Some of those VMP records right now, like this Black Sabbath, you know, you guys... can go right into it because Matt picked it, and I can see why. Matt, why did you pick this record as one of your favorites?
So, I mean, there's a couple reasons. One, I definitely, like, this record was big for me, even in, like, high school. I had, you know, a long kind of love with Black Sabbath. But this was also one of, like, the first big project records that we took a big swing on at Vinyl Me Please. So
I remember that, yeah.
I remember, like, you know, just kind of where we were as a company, and we wanted to, you know, figure out remastering, and we wanted to really do this record, you know, honor. We all thought this is an undeniable classic.
Was this a Christmas record? If I remember, you released it as the Christmas record with the idea maybe that people would buy it. It
was November, so
it was November.
Holiday.
Okay, gotcha.
It was a December record that went after. Usually, we go a little more mellow in December. The record you're going to put on when, you know, your family's in town. So Sabbath may not be that for some people.
Sure.
But you know, last year was Miles Davis. The year before was Nina Simone. But yeah, the Sabbath record. You know, we got original analog tapes. We did a full remaster. We loved the way the purple colorway came out. And this was like a oh shit moment for a lot of people, where, like, we were playing with a record that was, you know, all-time legendary classic.
Oh, yeah. It's like you don't want to get it wrong either. Mind you, you know what? I got to say that There are so many pressings of this record, and it's been done wrong so many times. I'm not even sure that anybody would point to yours. They'd just say it's another shitty pressing. But yeah, I'm actually showing the purple record right now. And I mean, I'm not a color guy. You know, I'm not a color guy, but people like color, so it does do it a little different. What it is that I'm showing also is the little hype sticker. I think, you know, I'm a record nerd, right? So I removed the hype stickers and I put them on the inner sleeve. So you guys recreated the vertical swirl, which is really cool. And most importantly, you said this was your first swing at remastering, right?
Yeah, I would. There's probably some people here that might fact check me, but it was the first time we remastered something that was this like big and important.
Gotcha.
We might have done some remaster work before this, but you know, we were really at that point where we're trying to invest more and make sure the members were getting something that really was different than what, you know, they could go to the store and get, and started to introduce remastering right around that time. And we were all super nervous, you know, want to make sure the mastering came out. And this record's a little noisy still. I mean, the original tapes are just not great. So, I mean, there's a reason why nobody has like a version of Paranoid that sounds pristine. A lot of this, just the source material was rough.
Yeah. No, the vertical swirls are, you know, pretty much the top pressing for this. But if you had to go into, you know, the various versions of Black Sabbath here in America, it's the green, the dark green Warner Brothers Shield pressing, which is exactly what your center label is, right? Those are the original first pressings. Now, what I liked about this was I do have an original Warner's pressing, so I was able to do a back-to-back and found it pretty much virtually the same thing. The Vertigo's better because I do have a Vertigo swirl as well, but in terms of, actually I have so many, oh my god, dude, I got so many copies of this because it's one of those records, like you said, when I started doing vinyl again in 2010, I just bought right away and I didn't know what I was buying. I bought a shitty copy at the beginning and I've just kind of gradually been making it better and better. So I actually own 4 or 5 copies of this. The point I'm trying to make is that yours is similar in quality and production in terms of the remastering and everything to the Warner Brothers green label with the Warner Shield. And I think that's pretty much all that you can ask.
Yeah, we were really happy with how it came out, and it's, of all the VMP titles that I will pull out at home, I mean, this gets, you know, constant rotation, and it's probably the record I listen to loudest, and it holds up.
I most certainly agree. Well, that's one that we agree together. You know what's fun about dude? I'm going to nerd out so much, man. I can't wait to go through all of these records because it's just, we're talking about fantastic records. It's like we're here and this is what we do, right? And it's like we're talking about, okay, now we're going to pull all the cream out. How can you not get excited? Let me pull.
I mean, the only part that was not exciting was having to try to just pick 5. I mean, it's pretty easy to get 5 in there for, you know, the $100 cap. But, you know, and obviously I'm biased, but I love so many of these records.
Dude, the thing is that the price is right. Honestly, like I said, okay, $29 is the monthly rate. And $29, listen, you offer fantastic price.
That includes shipping, that includes the art print, that includes the cocktail. Yeah. I mean,
absolutely. So there's no issue there. You know what? I'm looking at it, $18. You gotta be fucking stupid not to take it. We'll go to another one that's 20, okay?
The other thing we didn't mention that probably everyone listening will actually care about, also through the 31st of this month, we are doing free shipping on all of this stuff. So when you see $18, you're getting that record $18 shipped.
Okay, no, wait a sec. Hold on a sec. This is for members, though.
No. Members, non-members, and international folks.
Are you motherfucking kidding me?
We are shipping these records for free through the end of the month.
Okay, so you're basically giving away your catalog if somebody's buying from Europe.
I mean, it is a hell of a deal if you're buying from Europe.
Yes,
Europe,
it is.
Australia, it's a great time to like get in there, load up a big load because after August 31st, we go back to full shipping.
Look, I love it. Why don't I give them another reason? Okay, this time we'll move a little bit. This was one of my picks. And I mean, Matt was right. It was hard to just stick to 4 or 5 because there were a lot of good ones. Listen, that's not to say that there's not any misses. There's a lot of stuff that's not for me, and I think that's taste, you know. But for me, one place where you really hit, and I'm showing 2 copies of it, Matt, is Betty Davis, the debut album. Okay, what it is that I'm doing here is I'm showing your copy versus an original copy that I have, Just Sunshine Records. Okay, and it's immediately noticeable that, I mean, yours just pops more. You know, there's kind of like that sheen on it. And your copy has something that the original doesn't, which is gold stamp. So the Betty Davis writing is gold stamped. And the original was a single sleeve. What's it called? Just a single jacket.
Right.
This one is a gatefold, and it's a stout and tip-on. So we're talking about quality all the way, right? It's just the tip-on jacket is what it is that you're looking for the most. And it's got a funny color. Should I show color? You know I don't care about color.
Come on, that color's pretty as all get out.
All right, well, the color. There you go. So I show the color.
All the razzle-dazzle that Betty had. You gotta have a little color.
Well, look. For me, as a record guy, okay, it's like I said, I was there, I had the record, so I knew what it was, but I love doing the head-to-heads, and production-wise, your record was absolutely as good as an original, and as good as The Light in the Attic, and I'm assuming probably you used the same tapes as the Light in the Attic ones?
Yep.
Okay, with a gorgeous package, and $29 is a monthly subscription. You're giving it away for $20. You include shipping in that in Europe or Australia.
I know, it's crazy.
It's pretty fucking great. It's pretty crazy. And Betty Davis, married to Miles Davis, is legit. This is legitimately one of the baddest ass funk records, male or female. This is dirty, man. It's awesome.
And I love, dude, she's got so much swagger. I think it totally speaks to, you know, a lot of like what's happening in female driven music right now. And like these women are like stepping into the forefront, pushing musical boundaries. And Betty Davis was doing that, you know, back in the 60s. And there's so much swagger on this record. I think it's like a lot of the younger women in the VMP offices like really rode for this record as just like it being kind of an anthem. Like,
it
you
was.
just want to have that confidence and that like character that she had, and it just makes her timeless.
Well, look, the thing is I mean, you look at the history of women in music, and it's like all of them, anybody, they all, there's always somebody who kind of like led the way for the rest, from going all the way back to what's her name, Bessie Smith. You know, who was a hard drinker and known to have a hell of a temper. You know, she hung out in bars and bar brawls. To, you know, I think of somebody like Etta James, okay? And what was rebellion in the 60s? Rebellion is for a black lady to fucking yell at the top of her lungs and dye her hair blonde. Because no black woman did that. So she stood out like a sore thumb, and she was very strong. And Betty Davis totally takes that even further as, I mean, not the first, you can't, look, I mean, we're just kind of talking here, but really just one of the first female artists that I can think of that just oozed sexuality, but not just oozed sexuality, but just owned it. And, you know,
she talks about it in her lyrics, and she's like not being demure about it. She's not being, you know, too radical, but it's not like some taboo thing. It is just part of who she is. Yeah,
the thing is that you can see where all of a sudden Madonna comes into the picture, right? And where she takes it a little bit further, right? And where somebody like Nicki Minaj, or there's an entire thing, but this stuff all happens in steps. Okay. And if I look at the 70s, and I look when this record was released, I think 72, 73, I don't remember exactly when. To me, Betty Davis was one of those artists that just took women in music, or just took that woman's movement type of thing and went completely in a direction that was very, very, very strongly her own, you know? So you can look at Nina Simone, for example, who was a huge part of the movement, and you can look at somebody like Aretha Franklin, you know, who just was, again, a huge, huge part of the movement, although she wasn't political. But Betty Davis just took womanhood and infused the music with such a passion, and you know, so much so that she influenced Miles Davis, and Miles Davis would have probably not gone all crazy with his voodoo funk if he'd never met Betty Davis. I'm sorry if I go on, Hessler. I love Betty Davis. I love her, man.
That's all right, man. It was a little bit of exposure for me. I knew her, and I knew I was more familiar with Nasty Gal, right?
Sure.
I think that was the
second
record that followed this.
Uh-huh.
And so this record, you know, when we put it out, was a little bit new to me, and it just got high summer rotation. My girlfriend loves having it on. It's just like, you want to bring the mood up in a house, put on this record.
It's pretty easy, you know. It's pretty easy in terms of your catalog, at least, to say Funk 101. That's it, right? And it's like, if I'm getting it right, Vinyl Me Please is really trying to, you know, you're not trying to go the Amazon experience. You're trying to provide a curated experience for your members and for the people that shop, right? So you're picking a little bit of everything, and you can't ever do it all. But you know what? If you got something like Betty Davis as early funk, I'm not sure that you're going to pick a record that's a whole lot funkier than that. Certainly, I can't think of one that's funkier from a woman.
Yeah, I mean, you can argue this stuff all day, but I think arguing that this is a record that, if you have any interest in funk, this is worth adding to your collection.
Absolutely.
You can argue if it's the top, you know, the most important in, you know, in the funk genre, but it certainly deserves a spot on the shelf. It's a rad record.
Dude, we're two guys nerding out about records, man. There's no such thing as right or wrong. As people are watching this, they're going to have their idea, you know, so, and it's just as valid. It is.
Yeah, of course,
brother,
of course.
It's your turn to talk. Give me a pick, please.
Oh man, oh man, oh man. There's a bunch of ways to go on this. I'm going to go with the Main Source record.
All right.
So 90s hip hop. I believe we did this like February of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool pressing. Had that cool bonus 7-inch. It is, if you like, I mean, like the 90s hip hop and what was happening kind of East Coast, Main Source was right before a lot of the like biggest East Coast artists, like that wave right before you had Biggie and Puff and some of like the real defining New Yorkers.
This is the 7-inch.
Main Source was it. This record is so fun to listen to. It's such a little bit of a hip hop novelty. This was a really kind of hard record to come by, and for me it was really special. Just I got to be part of. We hosted a reunion show, so these guys hadn't played together in I think about 11 years, and through reaching out to them, that the rights for this record had reverted back to them, so we got to work with the artist direct.
Okay,
on that,
gotcha.
which was a pleasure, and we worked with them every step of the way on the package. It was hilarious. They hadn't they'd lost any of the print files for vinyl, so we had to do like scans of old CDs and recreate the whole package. And it's just, as far as, you know, kind of your hip hop history goes, Large Professor. I mean, these guys went on to be, you know, do production for Tribe Called Quest and have bars on lots of famous records, and you kind of can hear them. There's a song called Live at the Barbecue on this record that is the first verse that Nas is ever on a recorded record. He's like 17 years old when he dropped a few bars on this. So it's like, it's a very cool piece of history as far as I'm concerned.
Well, if I remember, I mean, listen, I was new to it, you know, as old as it is. One of the reasons that I keep saying that you guys are, you know, the subscriptions are worth it is because I think that you're really doing a fantastic job at filling up people's hip hop, and not with records that are necessarily obvious. Okay, I mean, you got the Doggy Style, and you did something special with that. The Notorious B.I.G. was never released before, and you had all the skits and all the swearing, so that was something pretty amazing too. But Main Source, I had never heard of it before, and if I remember correctly, I mean, let's try to go back. You guys seemed to have gotten a lot of credibility. You got a huge credibility boost among the hip-hop crowd when you put this out, as in, hey, you know what? The Diggers knew what it was, and it's like, oh shit, I can finally get a copy. And a bunch of guys like me who like that old music got introduced to something where it's like, hey, wait a second, this fits very comfortably with my Tribe Called Quest records and with my Diggable Planets records, you know, and my Far Side records and so forth.
Yeah, no, it's right in that bubble with all those bands you just referenced, like
Guru, Jazzmatazz, you know? Yeah, that was a big one, man. I totally liked that one as well. And, dude, $20. $20! $20! Bonus 7-inch! We don't talk about prices in the forum, but the show is a different thing, right? Dude.
Yeah, I mean, $20 for records with shipping. I mean, you're getting it, like, the deals are there.
Look, you figure $18, $20. If $100 gets you 5 records with some change, you're doing all right.
You're doing all right.
So check it.
Better than I do when I go to the record store. I'll tell you that. I always think I'm gonna go. I go straight for the used bin, but then when I don't find anything I want, then I'm into like getting $100 of. I feel like I pay $25 to $27 for every record these days.
Oh yeah, 30, 35, 40. Let's not go there. We're having a good time. I don't want to be fucking miserable over it. Yeah, let's talk about records that are a deal. All right, look.
We got Betty Davis. We got Main Source. Where are you going next?
Right here. Wells Fargo, watch out.
Yeah.
This was something that you guys did with Aegon and Now Again Records, and it's one of many collaborations that you've done with Now Again and Stone's Throw. And look, I legit think that Aegon's just one of the best diggers. There are tons of small labels, and each of them have their specialty. And actually, we'll be doing a Africa show on Saturday. So a lot of the records that were there before, like there's Novos Baianos that you just put, the Brasilia. There's a bunch of stuff. Like, I can legitimately say we're going into our second show, and we have referenced Now Again Records very often, because it's a catalog that you necessarily will reference if you're talking about this type of music. And by association, because you guys basically, you know, you associate yourself with labels, you're curating from there.
Sure.
You know, by association with a label like this, you know, you're releasing a lot of great stuff. Wells Fargo is a record that you'll never find an original of. I mean, unless you're willing to spend $500 on it, then it's a different thing. I'm not. So the fact that it's available is a huge thing. This is one place where I do want to go into the packaging a little, because it's just a little example of how you provided a ton of value for the subscriber.
Right.
Okay. I mean, we'll look at the vinyl, which is pretty. It's nice, green, kind of swirly thing. But that's not really the part I was looking at. I'm getting somewhere, Hessler. I'm getting somewhere.
It's all right.
Okay, so then there's the print, which is kind of nice. You know, I know that a lot of people take these prints and they frame them, and it's kind of like a nice idea if I had a wall, if I had wall space for it. But to me, that's not what it is.
Covered in records.
Yeah, dude, I got shelves everywhere, man. I had a toilet installed right in the middle of my basement, so now I'm completely set over here. Okay, I'm basically
never gonna leave. You gotta get out and see the sunshine, get some vitamin D. You gotta get out of your man cave.
I am a stove away from never seeing my family again. At this point. But there's no walls. So what are you going to do? You're going to have an architect. You're going to have somebody build walls. Fuck that. I'm a record collector. I went to IKEA. You get a couple of 4x4s. Instant walls. So what happens is when you come and take a dump at my house, you're surrounded by records. So you can pull a record out and you can read liner notes.
Nice.
It's nice, isn't it?
That is nice. What better reference material do you need than
precisely? But so it's with that in mind, okay? It's with the fact that I've just put in a new toilet that reading material becomes very important, and I think Wells Fargo is where you really hit it, because this is something that Now Again does really well, and why I keep buying what they put out.
Yeah.
Dude, the booklet is fucking phenomenal. How many pages is this? 30 pages? Tons of notes on the history of Zamrock, on the history of Wells Fargo, pictures up the yin-yang. Dude, to me, this is the vinyl experience. The color's nice, but I don't stare at a record. What I do, though, is I read.
It's such a big part of why the record is important to listen to, is learning about the story, about like the way they were opposing their government and using music in a powerful way to rally people. I just think the record, you know, I think it's a fun record to listen to without the context, but when you have the context, you start listening for lyrics and the whole thing just becomes a lot more deep, a lot more powerful.
What I really like about when you made this pick, and you've made it with a couple, and I really like, it's something that makes me respect your brand, even though I'm not for all of them. Okay, so let's say, I mean, again, this is just a personal thing. I mean, the alt Pitchfork stuff is not really my wheelhouse. That doesn't make it bad. It just means I'm not really somebody who'd go out and buy it ordinarily if there wasn't a subscription. But where it is for me, like as an old collector and someone who likes funk and likes, again, I always go back to 65 to 75, predominantly black culture music. Dude, Wells Fargo falls right in there. And what I like is with a company like you guys on a subscription-based service where you're sending out a bunch of records and taking a chance on them. Okay?
Yeah.
You're taking a chance on a record like this that nobody knows about. I mean, I didn't know about it. Right? And to me, that just shows that there's a vision to what it is that you're doing, and that you got balls enough to put your name behind something that isn't necessarily the slam dunk. Okay, you do the Black Sabbath, and the Black Sabbath was perfect. But you know what? To me, the Black Sabbath is kind of like casting a large net. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's kind of easy. I mean, it doesn't... It's not good or bad. Like, I love that record, and you could argue that it's more important to the canon of modern music, but there is something a little bit easy about it, right? A million people love that record, love that band.
You know you're gonna sell it.
You know you're gonna sell it. But there's other stories out there and bands and records that have been put out that, like, those stories need telling too. And it just deepens. I mean, it's been the greatest joy for me in getting to work here for a long time, is like feeling my total music appreciation just expand because there's things that push my boundaries.
Dude, you know, I just look at when it is that you and I started doing these shows versus where we are now, and you just speaks with so much more, just, you're much more comfortable, and, you know, you realize that it's not necessarily about the nuts and bolts of the stories. I mean, there's some of us that like doing that, right? But ultimately, the vinyl experience is about connecting to the music. And, you know, you don't necessarily have to read the lyric sheets. In my case, I love that, and a lot of people like that, and I think it's an essential part of it. But ultimately, what it is that you're trying to do, even this, okay, even a gorgeous booklet like this this booklet for Watch Out, Wells Fargo, what's the point of it? The point of it is to create a connection to the human. It's just something that kind of like binds us to the experience of putting on that record, that physicality. But ultimately, what are we talking about? We're talking about the same thing, a qualitative experience. Okay, a qualitative experience is a memory. The memory of a record kind of thing is worth a whole lot more than the liner notes are when you think of it.
It sure is. It sure is. Yeah, I mean, I think, a lot of what triggers when I'm like, what am I going to pull off the shelf? A lot of it's nostalgia and familiarity, love of the music. But it's interesting. I don't know if you ever have this when you have people come over and you're listening to records together. I love pulling out stuff that's kind of going to be a little bit weird, a little bit outside of their wheelhouse, as a way to like share that music appreciation and maybe like turn somebody else on to something that you've kind of discovered and you dig. And I think that's what we try to do, as a business. But I find myself like doing that a lot personally, where like we can all agree that we both love, whatever XYZ record, Sabbath, but pulling out something that's a little left to center is kind of fun, and it creates a conversation.
That's exactly right. Because what it is that you're doing is you're just moving a little bit. You don't want to move too left of center, okay? Because if you move away, I mean, this is something that I do all the time. And I mean, the pleasurable thing, and we're doing this, I mean, virtually, with this type of a show is exactly what we're doing, okay?
Yeah.
We're just talking about music. And when people come here and they visit the record cave, they have a drink, they relax, you know what? More often than not, some of them will want to share. Okay, so we do this thing where, they play a side and I play a side, but a lot of them will come in and say, you know what, play something, because they want to hear something a little different. So just the fact that you're doing that, it's kind of like they've already accepted the fact that, you know what, it might not be the same couple of dozen songs that you'll hear on the radio over and over again. It won't be the same dozen artists that are constantly being pushed down your throat on Spotify. You couldn't get away from fucking Drake. All right? So it's like people kind of appreciate that, I find. I mean, that's been my experience here, So yeah, I guess it doesn't surprise me at all that, you'll put on a record that's maybe a little bit of left of center. And again, for me, what I've noticed is you don't want to go too far. Some people will accept it, but a lot of people, for example, if their idea of country music is Johnny Cash, you don't want to stray from the Johnny Cash, right? So you might go with the Waylon Jennings, you might go with some Willie Nelson. You're not, maybe if you put on I don't know, Hank Williams yodely songs, maybe the yodeling won't pass.
Yeah. Well, I remember you and I bonded over a record. I don't know if either of us picked it in our carts, but it is on as part of the sale. It's that Book's Lemon of Pink, right?
Hell yeah.
That record is pretty left of center, and it's tough. If you just pull that out and throw it on without any context, it can be a little jarring for some people. It doesn't feel super melodic. But if you spend time with that record, man, there's so much depth there, and that record is amazing.
I can say that the Lemon of Pink is easily one of the most important dozen records I've heard in the last 10 years. I still haven't been able to really put my finger on what it is, other than it just seems to adjust. It just seems to adjust this energy inside. There's something about it that just hits so many spots. It's almost like an auditory acupuncture or something. Okay.
I like that analogy. Yeah. And I feel like that record is different for me every time I listen to it. It's got so many layers that you can just pick up different things every time you're sitting with that record.
And they work all together, but some of the things are so disparate. And, because there's so many sound bites and field recordings, every sound bite and every field recording might, that's why it works for me. It kind of like it triggers memories, it triggers experiences, sometimes stuff that I haven't thought about for years, and somehow does it in a very kind of non-invasive, meditative way. So in other words, it's like, you'll listen to some music that'll trigger you, but it might trigger something bad. Okay, or it might make you think. Like, let's use the Childish Gambino video, for example. That Childish Gambino video is a great video. It's an effective video, but the entire point is that it's supposed to kind of jar you.
Right.
Yeah. In the case of the Lemon of Pink, that's not what it's doing at all. It's kind of accessing all of these parts of your brain, but it's not in a jarring. It doesn't unsettle. It soothes. And I played this record for a friend of mine. My friends, came over, husband and wife, and, Natasha told me that I forgot what the exact story was, but, she wasn't happy about some stuff. Okay? And as we got into the discussion, I mean, these aren't any record nerds by any means. They don't own any vinyl. They don't own anything. Okay? They got some mixtape CDs, MP3 type of thing, and they stream. Okay? But they come here, they listen. Okay, and they do appreciate, I mean, not everybody's going to dig. Some people just appreciate having different stuff played for them, right?
Yeah.
So this was the case. And what it is that she was telling me kind of caused me to tell her how it's just somehow this music connects to a very deep part of me that I absolutely confess to not understanding, but it does so like, auditory acupuncture. And I put this record on for her. And, I mean, I'm pretty sure you'd agree with me, Hessler. I mean, it's not a party record.
No, it is not a party record.
But
I don't know if I've ever listened to this record with other people. It's almost always a solo listening.
I did. And you know what? She kind of got it. It's just... I remember the energy in our room type of thing, right? And it's just we were all having our drink and we were all... It was kind of like, you always play, I mean, if everyone's happy and they're all fucking coked out, what do you want to do? You want to play party music. It's different. You bang out the Motley Crue, but this wasn't what we were at. It was a winter day. It was a winter night type of thing. And we were kind of like all cocooning and we were all kind of pensive and all of this. And it just fit the spot. And yeah, it's the first and only time I've ever played the record other than suggesting it. But do you realize how long we've just talked about the book's Lemon of Pink?
I mean, yes, I think it's a testament to I love hearing you talk about it because I haven't thought about it like in a lot of ways because it's so like sample heavy and it feels synthetic, but the way you talk about it like accessing these hard to understand parts of your humanity is so interesting to me. Like, and I don't know. You and I have a weird history with that record. I feel like that's kind of how I bonded with you because I was like, man, we're taking a real weird swing with Lemon of Pink, and I didn't know who would be into it and who wouldn't, and it was another one of those like Vinyl Me Please kind of departures. We could have played it, we could have put out a hit record that month, and we thought this was important. And when I hear people like talk about it the way you talk about it, there's such a humanity to it that it just makes me really happy.
Listen, dude, the fact is that I could talk about this for the next 10, 15 minutes very, very easily. It's only to move the show along that I won't. But all this is to say that I can say with all sincerity, the Lemon of Pink is a record I've suggested to a lot of people. And it's, one of the top dozen most important records I've heard in the last decade. And there's an entire portion of my life that is so attached to this, as much as, when I was 12 years old and bought my first Iron Maiden record, or when I was 6 years old and bought my first Kiss record, really as much, as strongly as that, but on a much more existential, meditative level. I love this record, man. We gotta stop. Pick another record, man.
We'll take a little. I don't know why I think of these records as being slightly kindred spirits, but my next pick would be the Bad Bad Not Good 4. It's not sampley in the way that Lemon of Pink is, but I think it's really cool, like the way you've got a couple of young Canadian jazz musicians really like doing interesting things in the hip hop community is kind of where they've built this big awareness. Projects with Snoop and I think Kendrick. they've worked with tons of people, and they're kind of beat makers, but they have this like classic jazz training. They are as white and Canadian as you could imagine, and I love this is a great like modern jazz record that I always go all four sides. It's 2 LP, and
Sure.
uh, I enjoy the whole experience. Some other, kind of modern jazz, I'll get through an A side, maybe A B, and that's it. I really like. I think this record flows really nicely, and it's a criminal steal right now. So
Yeah, and I mean, for those that care, this record, I'm showing the cover here, Hessler. I mean, it's yellow, so you guys had a kind of like a different color variant because most of the records are all blue.
Yep.
And I agree. What it is in term musically, it kind of harkens back a little bit to the early acid jazz days. I kind of got that feel. You know, it's not. It's definitely not completely throwback. I mean, it's still there's a modernity to it without a doubt, but it just gives me that feel. You know, it's nice to hear hip hop and jazz fused together. So that's what they're doing. To me, can I just?
Yeah.
Matt.
Yeah.
What in the fuck of Scooby-Doo is this cover all about, man? What is this? Four pasty white... These nipples, they scare me.
I know. I kind of like the cockiness of like these guys. Like the reason why they were getting popular is they were doing all this backing instrumentation for big hip hop artists. And they put out a record with possibly the whitest cover you could ever conceive of. And I think it's like kind of an awesome statement of like,
dude, it's vomit worthy.
This is who we are. We're a little goofy. We're like, they didn't try to bring in any of that like hip hop swagger at all. They're just like, this is us.
Dude, I hate this cover. I really this cover is a vomit. Those nipples.
I don't want to sit and stare at it.
Those nipples make me think I might have breast cancer. And the guy in the middle, with his eyes closed, he looks like he's been dropped on his head. But the music, the music. Who could argue with the music? And you know what? It needs to be said. They're pretty huge, man. When they play Montreal, motherfuck, man, they rock. They sell it out all the time, and they rock the house. They rock the house, man. How did it do for you guys, sales-wise?
It was a good record for us. It was, I mean, not, you're not talking about blowing the doors off, but this record performed really well. And it was one of the records from that year that was like, we got consistently good feedback from members that were surprised, right? Because think of it, like if you didn't know these guys at all, you're part of this record subscription. You get this thing in the mail. You see the cover. You probably have the same reaction you did. Like, I hate this cover.
Oh, yeah.
What did they just send me? You don't have any thought, like, that this is a jazz record. And you put it on. And I think we got a lot of, like, that surprise reaction from people where it's almost like if you tell them a movie's just okay or it was, wasn't that great, and then they're like pleasantly surprised. We had so many people reaching out and being like, "Oh, this record was awesome," and I wasn't sure it was gonna be. I was
it's very
little nervous when I saw this cover and got this, and I was like, "Bad, not good." Like, what is this?
Look again, 65 to 75, mostly black music. This cover looks pretty much as fucking Wonder Bread, bologna sandwich, and processed cheese as you can pop. These kids got the shit kicked out of them in school. As awesome as they are as musicians.
Yeah. And they made good. Look it up.
And they made good. And you know what? It was a record that I think you hit the nail right on the head. I would have never bought it. Never. You guys, you guys put it in the album of the month, and I still play it. I think it's an amazing record. So yeah, I would say that in terms of your catalog, it's one of those records that kind of falls into the realm of unknown stuff that I got introduced to through Vinyl Me Please that wound up being a success. They weren't all success. Like for me, Tennis is not a record I'm going to play anymore kind of thing. But on the other hand, I can very easily point to The Books, which was a completely, like a game changer for me, and a record like The Bad, Bad, Not Good that still kind of makes me a little nauseous to look at the cover, but it's great.
Amazing. What's your next pick?
Me, eh? Do I even have a next pick? Dude, you know what? I think we're down to your last pick, and then we can go into the grab bags, which are really interesting.
Ooh, yeah.
What we'll do is, well, the last pick is Big Bill Brunzi, but what we'll do is just tease you on the grab bags on why it is that maybe you want to listen a little longer. What it is that Vinyl Me Bleeds. Vinyl Me Bleeds have put together a beautiful, beautiful package in their sales department, okay, and they call it the Brown Bag Sale. Now, this is the concept. The concept is, it's like buying, you remember the surprise bags that you used to buy at the local corner store after coming back from elementary school? And the bags were stapled shut. But for a quarter, who knew what you were going to get? It was all very exciting. So what they did was they put together these grab bags. There's an alt rock around the world, coast to coast hip hop, cocktail hour, dance party, ethereal, fierce females, fill your soul, seduce me please for the lovers, and shimmer, whatever the fuck that means. And if you visit the site, they got some really nice pictures and there's a brown background, really very nice, but click on any one of those that might be interesting. So for example, go to, I don't know, I didn't pick alt rock, so I'm not going to pick that one. Which ones did I pick? If you go to them any case and you click, you'll notice that you're not going to see any albums. All you know is that you're getting 3 records, some of them double records, for $58. Yep. Less than 20 bucks. And like sometimes you legit have 5 or 6 slabs in there. Plus the shipping is free. So in other words, you know what? Pardon?
These are all Vinyl Me Please exclusives. So you're if you want to like take some guesses at what's in the grab bag, look at our archives and some of the stuff we've talked about today. Like these bags all kind of come from things that we've pressed. So some of it will be store exclusive, some of it a lot of it will be those record of the months, our hip hop track, our jazz, blues, soul, classics track, kind of brought together in, we thought, collections that made sense. And it's a cool way to roll the dice. You're getting, you're paying less than 20 bucks a record, and there's some treasures in there. We want people to like really be stoked when they get their selection.
So check it. This was my idea. I'll take credit for it. I went and it's like, I clicked on these little brown bags and I didn't see anything. It's like, well, Matt, there's nothing here. He's like, yeah, well, that's exactly the point. You take a chance. One way or another, you're getting tons of value, but you don't know what you're getting. So what I told him is, give me the titles so that at least I can tease these people, or I can tell them which ones I have or which ones I don't, right? And you don't want to give it to me at the beginning because he doesn't trust me. Eventually, he gave them to me. Now, you tell me. I'm based on the titles because I know what's in these packages. What I've done is I've picked my favorite 3 packages, and because there's 3 records in every package, and I can say that the top 3 packages I picked, every single record, in my opinion, is an absolute banger. You can't go wrong. Matt might have different picks.
What were your picks? I'm interested what brown bags you like.
Okay, well look, I mean, it's no surprise that I'm a jazz guy. Okay, so Cocktail Hour is a slam dunk. Cocktail Hour is how many? Cocktail Hour is 5 slabs. Cocktail Hour comes with beautiful little booklets. It comes with 180-gram vinyl. And it comes with it's a safe a bet as you can possibly get. So for me, the 3 that you got there is an absolute slam dunk. The Cocktail Hour was probably, out of everything, for my taste, geared to my taste, was the big one. Which ones would you have taken? Let's go one-on-one here.
There were a couple that I was pretty into. Cocktail Hour is really strong. The coast to coast hip hop, if you
Yeah.
look through our hip hop, history, both on our Record of the Month subscription, some of the Rap and Hip Hop subscription, it's awesome. And again, kind of what you said, like, there's just none of those in there are amiss. I think you're talking 6 slabs.
Six slabs.
You are getting a lot of hours of, like, some of the best titles in hip hop. So I'm really into the coast to coast hip hop, and I actually really like the Fierce female bundle, and maybe that's because that's been a lot of what's in my headphones, a lot of female fronted bands. And you've got some powerhouse women, and we've worked on some projects with some incredible female artists. So
yeah, well, one of the Fierce female albums is a huge banger for me. One of the best things you put out.
Nice.
And I would definitely say that the coast to coast hip hop is that was out of the 3 packages. That was the other one that was 3 for 3, and probably the one that I would have picked right away. The only thing that you can say is, you know what, these are all VMP exclusive titles, so I gotta tell you, you don't have to work too hard at figuring out which 3 records they are. All I can tell you is that they're 6 slabs, and they're bangers. They're absolute bangers you can't miss. So if you just go through Vinyl Me Please and you take a look at their hip-hop, in my opinion, hip-hop is what you guys do best.
Thank you.
That's probably massive value there.
Yeah.
And another one.
Those deals will definitely be gone end of the month. I mean, I think those brown bags, people are going to commit to them, be excited, and you won't see a deal like that on some of these groups of records for at least another year in the Vinyl Me Please world.
And the other one that I'm picking is actually dovetails perfectly into our episode next Sunday. We're doing me and Grant Austin are going digging back into the world bins. So we're doing a show on Tropicalia from Brasilia to West Africa. And the reason it is that I'm mentioning that is because we are most definitely going to be talking about one of the records in this patch here. And one's a classic. Classic. You want it.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a deep dig, but it's a classic. Another one is such a mind blower. I didn't know this record. Okay. But for what it is, and I can't go too much into it, for what it is, it's immediately launched itself right to the top of this type of category. And you'll find out only on Sunday what I'm talking about, but I swear I'm not understating this, dude. I have a lot of this kind of stuff. This record really, really rocked my world, and I was amazingly happy with the way it turned out. And it's pressed very nicely. Okay. And, the other one, I think they're all good. There's some challenging, and in my opinion, there's 2 out of 3 that there's no challenge there. It's just, they're bangers. They're bangers. So,
yeah,
Around the World, Cocktail Hour, Coast to Coast, dude, that's a solid, what is it, $170 or something? Solid, free shipping. That's a lot of great records, man.
Yeah. I mean, we're excited. We're trying to clear the shelves. We've got an amazing bunch of records scheduled through the end of the year. So, the vault's open, and let's get these records on people's turntables. I want, people that haven't given Vinyl Me Please a try, a chance to see the quality of the package, see the quality of the pressing, and really get a sense of what we do.
Well, look, the thing is actually, packaging is probably a great way to look at it, to end it, because we can end it on what we were talking about, and that is Big Bill Brunzi is one of them that I chose, because I can point to this. Big Bill Brunzi is a record that came out originally on Folkways, and Folkways did their packaging in a very specific way, okay? It's a board, okay, that's glued on, and then it's what do you call it? It's a tip-on that goes over, but it covers all the front and only half of the back. And this is something that you see only with this record. And the reason it is that I give you kudos for this, besides the fact that, I mean, it's a classic, it's a classic blues artist, and it's an absolutely classic label, but you went through the pains of making sure that the record was authentic to the original. The vinyl is black, there's no color. I liked that. And, you know, a lot of these jackets were printed at Stoughton. And I'm very, very proud of the fact that, you know, I represent them because they are the best in packaging. And you see it immediately.
Yeah, that jacket's awesome. It just feels stiff. I mean, sometimes, and when you're working with like Smithsonian Folkways, right, you get that sense of history. And that package feels like something that's going to be archived in the Library of Congress. It's just like, it's heavy and it's got structure, and you're just like, this is a piece of history.
Well, look, the thing is it also points to something else that I like, is that you try as much as possible to understand the vinyl experience and to try to understand your market. So somebody that will buy a Big Bill Broonzy record might not necessarily be the same person who'll buy a Black Sabbath record or a hip-hop record. And the expectation of those three types of record collectors are completely different, because very often those three things offer different experiences, and the people that listen to those three things look for different things. When you're looking at, you know, I can speak only for myself, when I'm looking at blues, authentic blues, for me, this is exactly my sweet spot. The Folkways stuff and the Alan Lomax stuff is, I mean, I love it, you know. And what we look for when we look for these records is very much as close to authentic as possible. And I have a lot of Folkways records, and a lot of them are completely destroyed, obviously, through time. But this one's right on. There's nothing missing.
Well, thank you. And thanks for having me today. I'm hoping people see this and they're as excited about the sale as we are. It's a thing we don't do, you know, very often. I think this is technically the first time in history that we've done both, like made some of this stuff available to non-members and put it on sale. It's certainly the first time we've done that with a free shipping promotion. So, you know, there's 8-9 days left in the month. Time to buy some records.
What it is that I like also is that it's a really cool goodwill gesture that kind of shows a commitment not only to the community that you're in, but really you're standing by your product. And I do like the fact that it's exactly that. It's an open house. You don't have to get it. You can buy records anywhere. But you guys now, after so long, you've built up a catalog. And this catalog is something that's been the exclusive of people who either subscribe, not all of us want to, or buy it on Discogs if they want it bad enough and the prices jack up, right?
Right.
This is the first opportunity where people can get it, not even at just regular subscription price, but cheaper than that. And, you know, by the time this video goes out, I'm assuming those Black Sabbath Paranoid records are going to be off. But you know what? If you can't... $18? Give me a break!
I know. They're going to fly.
Brother, this was amazing. It always is. I fucking love doing this. And we got one more until we meet up again. Wait a second. Yeah, right before, right? We're meeting up in Detroit.
We're going to meet up in Detroit. So we'll probably do a September one, and then I'll get to see your face in Detroit.
Beauty. All right, Matt, this was awesome, man. Hey, folks, how you doing? Welcome to our monthly edition of Vinyl Me Please. This one's called VMP Open House. How you doing, Matt?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm really well. I'm actually really excited about this one. It's the first time in Vinyl Me Please history that they are